Hi, everyone. Welcome back to All Kinds of Advice podcast, where we discuss a variety of celebrity gossip and celebrity news, and at the same time offer insights and advice to our wonderful listeners. So, for today, we have an interesting topic to dive into. We will be discussing the possibility of NeNe Leakes returning to Bravo, the popular reality TV series Real Housewives of Atlanta. Now, NeNe Leakes was a prominent figure on that show, and she recently made some intriguing comments about a potential comeback. So let's get into it. It's going to be a spicy show. So recently, TMZ ran into NeNe Leakes while she was out in Beverly Hills. And, TMZ asked if, Real Housewife of Atlanta needs, pretty much needs NeNe back on the show, as well as, her colleague Kim back on the show. Because we know when we were all watching Real Housewives of Atlanta, Kim and NeNe, they really made the show's ratings, top tier. Like they were always bringing the drama. There was always drama between the two of them. And, NeNe also had drama with other people on the show. So she really brought a sense of excitement to the show. She had, listeners and viewers kind of glued to the TV show, to this particular TV show when it did come on the Bravo channel. So NeNe responded, when TMZ asked her if they're going to need her back on that show, NeNe responded and she said, I would say check the ratings. Talk about shade. Like they asked you a simple question. Do you feel that, this network needs you back on that show? She could have said something along the lines of, yeah, I think so, but she decided to be a little bit shady and said, check the ratings. And then, TMZ is like, wondering like what does she mean by check the ratings. Of course they probably know, they know she's being petty, they know she's being shady, but they asked her to clarify a bit more. And then she said that should give you the answer, meaning I don't need to clarify, check the ratings. And I do agree with her. I feel like Real Housewives of Atlanta needs NeNe back on that show. She definitely brought the drama. One of the reasons why I watched that show religiously is because she was on there. I loved like her sense of humor. She brought like a lot of shade to the show. She brought a lot of the drama. She was such a confident type of person. She stood her ground in terms of what she believed in. And, I think, and she was pretty much authentically herself. And I think that's what a lot of fans miss about having her on that show. So I do agree with her that the ratings probably has not been the same since she left or since she exited from the actual show. But NeNe, they questioned her further because TMZ, they're pushy and they're gonna want an answer from her, like something that's more direct. And then NeNe mentioned that she would come back for the fans because she knows that fans have been yarning to see her back on that show. So she did mention, I would do it for the fans. And that, and she sort of left it there. But I'm thinking, I feel like even though I do want NeNe back on that show, and I'm sure a lot of other fans do as well, I feel like NeNe should move on to bigger and better things. I feel like she should not come back on that show because she left the show in 2020, and then she filed a lawsuit against Bravo, NBC Universal, and Andy Cohen, in April of 2022. And she mentioned that it was an environment that was filled with racism, and it was also a hostile environment. She also alleged that, Kim, a fellow cast member, went unpunished despite engaging in racially offensive behavior for years. So I know that you want to come back to please the fans, but then at the end of the day, you felt that you were not treated properly on that show. You felt that you went through a lot of like racial situations or encounters on that show with fellow castmates. Then why are you going back to that show? Why would you even want to go back, even if you're trying to please the fans? Like, I feel like when someone violates us, or if we're on a show and we don't feel like we're respected, and we don't feel like we're giving like a fair opportunity or treated properly, I feel like we should not, damper our self-esteem or damper our integrity and go back on that show. So I am here for her doing whatever she feels she needs to do money wise or financial wise. But in my opinion, I feel like since she brought this whole lawsuit against, this network, Bravo, she should not go back on that show. That's what I'm thinking. Like, why would you want to go back in such a hostile environment? Like I know the money is not running out for her. Like she is far from being poor or anything of that nature. Like she's worth like 14 million. When I was doing my research, I was like, there's no way she wants to go back on that show because she's missing the paycheck or she's like broke. Like she is worth $14 million. I would say leave it alone and don't go back. But then at the end of the day, she did drop her lawsuit against Bravo, NBC, and Andy Cohen. So maybe if they came to a settlement, maybe they have talks behind the scenes of her coming back. Maybe they apologize to each other because at the end of the day, if, this network feels they need to bring her back for ratings because it's all about the financial aspect of it at the end of the day, then I would say, you know what, if it works for both parties, if they come to an amicable decision, then go for it. I'll definitely would love to see the drama that she's going to bring on the show, and it will definitely bring back some of the fans that stop watching the show, in that sense. So, I mean, she's gonna do what she wants to do at the end of the day, regardless of, naysayers that are gonna say that she should not go back on that show, period. Like no matter like what money they're gonna give her. But another point that I want to make, if she is gonna go back on that show, if they are gonna settle things and they're gonna look past their differences, I feel like if she goes back on that show, she voiced that there was a lot of racism and it was a hostile environment, as I mentioned prior. That should be resolved before she goes back on that show. Yes, people, co-hosts or castmates can bring the drama, but then at the end of the day, it has to be a respectful environment. And I feel like policies and procedures need to be set in place where they're going to tell other castmates, bring the drama, but anything that's going to discriminate against someone else, anything that's going to create like a hostile environment, anything that's going to make someone feel like you're, you know, putting like racist comments towards them, it's not going to be tolerated. And if you do that, you will be suspended from the show or you're going to be expelled from the show. I feel like boundaries need to be set in place if NeNe is going to come back on the show, because why should she come back and have to face that type of hostile or racism situation all over again? In my opinion, it just doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna read some of the comments from fans. Like, when this story came out, Shade Room posted this story. Shout out to Shade Room. Fans gave their take on whether they wanted to see NeNe Leakes back on, Real Housewives of Atlanta. So I'm going to read some of, the comments from the fans. So one of the fans wrote here, Real Housewives of Atlanta needs you, NeNe. I stopped watching since you left. And I do agree with them. Like I pretty much watched the show because of NeNe. I loved her sense of humor. I love her shady behavior that she did. I loved her her resting face that she had on the show. Like no one could talk to her. She would check people without feeling any type of way about it. So I do agree with this fan that, NeNe brought the heat to the show, and I actually also stopped watching when she left as well. So, bringing her back might not be a bad idea after all. And then another person said on here, she made that bed, LOL. You want to return. That lawsuit you file, the damage is done, the bridge is burnt. So, in terms of this comment, yes, she did sort of burn a bridge when she went ahead and did the lawsuit against, Andy Cohen and Bravo and NBC. But then at the same time, if she was experiencing a situation that was racially degrading, a hostile environment, are you supposed to say that she's supposed to stay on that show, don't say anything, continue to take the bad treatment and not file a lawsuit? I don't agree with that. Like if she is experiencing turmoil where it's going to have, an impact on her as a person, she should bring that in a lawsuit. And what's to say like that the bridge is not burned? Suppose like she dropped this lawsuit and they, worked it out behind the scenes. We don't really know if that is what happened. So, and NeNe is not the type of personality that is going to cower down or back down if she is experiencing something that's hostile. She's going to talk up and, explain how she's feeling. And when we have people on the show, experiencing bad or negative situations, if they don't talk up and put actions in place or file lawsuits, then, maybe other people that join the show or other people of color is also going to experience this same conditions. Like now that she has brought forth this lawsuit, I'm pretty sure like the network is going to be super careful what, other castmates are saying about each other in terms of like racial slurs. They're going to be, more intentional about voicing that this will not be tolerated or no discrimination will be tolerated. So I feel like, yes, she could kind of had burned a bridge, but I'm happy that she came out and she spoke out based on this discrimination that she faced. Period. Okay, and then I'm going to read one last comment. Someone said also on the comments that under the Shade Room post, someone said, all I'm gonna say is NeNe was and is iconic on Real Housewives of Atlanta. She made the show and it has never been the same without her. Whether you love or hate her, no one can carry the show like she did. Bravo, just mad. They need her and they really should have treated her like a queen. I agree. Like they should have treated her like a queen. She brought a lot of the ratings, her and also other castmates as well, really made a lot of money for that network. Like, but yeah, I feel like they should have treated her a lot better. They should have reached out to her like privately. Um, Instead of her exiting the show, they should have reached out to her privately and said, we're willing to work things out, apologize for how she has been feeling, put action steps in place to address like her concerns as it relates to racism. That's what I think. Not like, and she also felt like, this network and Andy Cohen sort of blacklisted her. And it's a bit sad because it's like if someone has concerns about discrimination, I feel like it should be taken seriously. And it seems allegedly that, it was not taken seriously. They sort of did not extend her season on the show. And to make it even shadier, when I was doing my research, I also seen online, and some fans were complaining that there was a season 4 flashback that that network did, and they removed NeNe from the picture that they had of the cast members. And I thought like, yes, she filed a lawsuit, yes, she was upset with the network, but you cannot discredit the work and the ratings that she brought to that show. So I do agree with this comment. I felt like she should be treated like a queen. And who knows, maybe she's going to be back on the show. And who knows, maybe, they have sort of made their drama and their beef that she has like between the two of them. Maybe that's, water under the bridge now. We don't know. Maybe hopefully we'll be shocked to see her back on the show, and I'll be there with my eyes glued, ready for the drama and the turmoil that she's going to bring to the show. And I just love NeNe. Like I just love her. But then the main thing I want to voice is if there is no changes to the experiences that she faced on the show, I feel like she should not go back. And then I also agree with some fans comments that why would you want to go back to a hostile environment that discriminated against you, and an environment where a cast member, allegedly Kim, actually mentioned like racial slurs towards you, I feel like you should move on to bigger and better things. But then, hey, who am I to say? She is her own person. At the end of the day, she's gonna do what's best for her financially, period. Okay, so that was all for today for All Kinds of Advice podcast. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you feel like NeNe should return to a Real Housewives of Atlanta? Or do you think that she should keep it pushing and work on, other endorsements that she may have, and perhaps, do like other TV shows and not go back into this type of hostile environment allegedly? What is your perception of, what she mentioned that she would do it for the fans? What is your perception of NeNe on a whole? I personally love her. I think she embodies, confidence and that sort of thing. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. I love to hear you guys' feedback. But that's all for today, and I will see you guys on the next episode. Ciao.